Remember, God led you here for a reason. The question is, what will you do with it? In a world full of distractions, criticism, and challenges, it's easy to lose your peace. Every day it feels like something or someone is trying to push your buttons. But what if you could walk through life unshaken, no matter what happens around you? Today we're exploring a powerful way to stay calm, centered, and completely unbothered. A method that frees your mind, calms your emotions, and guards your spirit. It's time to discover how to keep your peace, no matter who or what tries to disturb it. The secret to unbreakable peace. You see, anger isn't something that happens to you. It's something you allow. Jesus himself faced betrayal, humiliation, and suffering, yet he remained unshaken. How? Because he knew that true power comes from within, not from controlling others, but from mastering oneself. When we look at the Bible, we see countless examples of patience and wisdom. The book of Proverbs tells us, "A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense." What does that mean? It means that anger is a choice, and when you choose peace, you choose strength. Letting go of control. One of the most common sources of frustration and anger in our lives is the desire to control situations, people, and outcomes. We think that if we can just arrange things perfectly, if we can just make others behave in a certain way, everything will be better. But what if the very act of trying to control everything is what is keeping us from peace? Jesus teaches us that true peace comes not from controlling others or circumstances, but from surrendering control to God. In the New Testament, we find a powerful reminder in Romans 12:19. "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath." This passage doesn't suggest we should allow injustice to prevail or let others harm us without response. Rather, it calls us to relinquish the need to control the outcome and trust that God's justice is far greater than anything we could orchestrate. The root of our anger often lies in our need for control. When things don't go our way, when people don't treat us how we think they should, we feel threatened. This feeling of being out of control triggers frustration, and before we know it, we're reacting in anger or bitterness. But what if we release this illusion of control? What if we allowed God to work in His own time and in His own way? Take a moment to consider the life of Jesus. He was wronged repeatedly by the religious leaders who plotted against Him, by His own disciples who abandoned Him, and ultimately by the Roman authorities who condemned Him to death. Yet He never tried to take matters into His own hands. He never sought to control the situation or demand that others behave in a way that suited His plan. Instead, He trusted His Father completely, and He allowed God's will to unfold according to divine timing. In Matthew 26:39, as Jesus faced the imminent suffering of the cross, He prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus' surrender to God's will is the perfect model of letting go of control. Even in His deepest moment of anguish, He chose trust over control, obedience over resistance. And in doing so, He found peace, not through changing His circumstances, but through aligning His heart with God's greater purpose. When we refuse to release control, we end up carrying burdens we were never meant to bear. We hold on to anger, frustration, and resentment as if they are weapons to protect us from being hurt again. But these emotions only weigh us down. stealing our peace and keeping us in bondage. We think that by holding on tightly to the reins of our lives, we can prevent future pain. But the truth is, we are only locking ourselves in a prison of anxiety and fear. Letting go of control means trusting that God is sovereign over all things, that He is working even in our trials, and that His plan is far better than anything we could orchestrate on our own. It is an act of faith, of acknowledging that we don't have to have all the answers, that we don't have to understand every twist and turn of our lives. Instead, we trust that God, in His wisdom and love, is in control. The book of Isaiah reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." Isaiah 55:8. God's perspective is higher than ours, and His understanding is perfect. When we choose to trust Him, we are choosing to let go of the burden of trying to manage every aspect of our lives. And in doing so, we free ourselves from the grip of anger and frustration that comes from trying to make everything go our way. Think about how much energy we waste trying to control things beyond our power. How much mental and emotional strain we endure in our attempts to manipulate situations or people to fit our expectations. But when we surrender control to God, we are freed from that constant striving. We can breathe more deeply. We can walk more peacefully, knowing that God is sovereign and that He is working all things together for our good. Romans 8:28. In practical terms, letting go of control might look like choosing not to engage in a situation where we want to force our point of view. It might mean releasing the need to get even when someone wrongs us. It could even mean trusting God with a relationship, situation, or circumstance that we can't control, knowing that He is at work even when we can't see it. The next time you feel the urge to control, pause. Take a step back. Remind yourself that you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to fix everything. Trust God. Let go of the anxiety of control and allow His peace to take its place. When we let go of control, we align ourselves with the rhythm of God's will. We find rest in the truth that He holds all things in His hands and that, even in our struggles, He is working for our ultimate good. This is where true peace is found, not in manipulating circumstances, but in surrendering them to the One who holds the world in His care. The power of non-reaction. One of the most profound teachings of Jesus is the power of non-reaction. When we think about moments of anger or frustration, we often focus on how we can express those emotions or defend ourselves. But in the kingdom of God, true strength is found not in reacting to every offense or provocation, but in the quiet power of not reacting at all. Think about the moment when Jesus was brought before Pilate. He was falsely accused, mocked, beaten, and ridiculed. Yet when Pilate demanded an answer, Jesus said nothing. Pilate, in his confusion, even asked, "Do you refuse to speak to me?" But Jesus, fully aware of the truth, knew that silence was His response. He didn't need to defend Himself. He didn't need to justify His actions or explain Himself to His accusers. Why did He remain silent? Because Jesus knew that reacting, defending, justifying, fighting back would only give power to the lies being spoken about Him. He understood that His peace was not contingent on external validation, nor was His identity tied to how others viewed Him. His peace came from the deep assurance that He was one with the Father, and that nothing could change the truth of who he was, regardless of the lies spoken over him. When we face insult or attack, the natural human response is to react. We want to defend ourselves, justify our actions, and prove that we are right. But this only escalates conflict and feeds into the cycle of anger and bitterness. Our egos become threatened, and we react out of a desire to protect ourselves rather than from a place of peace and strength. However, the power of non-reaction teaches us a different path. When we choose to remain silent in the face of insult or provocation, we are not giving up our power. We are asserting control over our own emotions. It's a deliberate decision to choose peace over strife, to let go of the need to control the situation or change the hearts of others. We recognize that we are in control of our emotions, not them. In the book of Proverbs, it says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Proverbs 15:1. This is the essence of non-reaction. When we respond with calmness, gentleness, and silence, we disarm the anger and hostility around us. We stop the cycle before it starts. The Apostle Peter further elaborates on this in 1 Peter 3:9, where he urges believers to not repay evil with evil or insult with insult, but to respond with blessing. This goes against our natural inclinations, but it is powerful. In the act of choosing non-reaction, we reflect Christ's love, patience, and wisdom. We rise above the drama, not because we are indifferent, but because we are anchored in something far greater than the momentary conflict. Non-reaction doesn't mean we are passive or indifferent to injustice. It doesn't mean we let people walk all over us. It means we choose to trust God with the outcome. When we refuse to react to slights, insults, or provocations, we place our trust in God's justice, not our own ability to right every wrong. The next time someone insults you, criticizes you, or tries to provoke a reaction, remember that their words only have power if you allow them to. Pause before you respond. Take a deep breath. Recognize that you are not obligated to react. You have the freedom to choose your response. And if you feel the anger rising within you, take a moment to step back and center yourself. Ask God for strength to remain silent, to remain calm, to refuse to engage in the drama that others may want to draw you into. In that moment, you will find an incredible peace. You will feel the weight of the situation lift off your shoulders, because you are no longer holding on to the anger or resentment that once might have consumed you. Remember, Jesus' silence before Pilate was not a sign of weakness, but of unparalleled strength. His refusal to react to false accusations did not make him any less powerful. Instead, it demonstrated his absolute trust in the Father's plan and his confidence in the truth. In the same way, when we choose non-reaction, we demonstrate our trust in God and His ability to handle the situations we face. And in that trust, we find peace, an unshakable peace that no person, no situation, and no accusation can ever take from us. So the next time you find yourself on the receiving end of an insult, an accusation, or a provocation, remember, you have the power of non-reaction. Choose peace, choose silence, and choose to let God be the one who fights for you. In that moment, you'll experience the strength that comes from true spiritual maturity, and you will walk in the unshakable peace that only comes from knowing you are in control of your response. Shifting your perspective. A great way to overcome anger is to shift your perspective. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." What if you looked at those who hurt you in the same way? What if you realized that most people act out of their own pain, not because of you? Instead of taking things personally, practice compassion. That doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it does mean you don't let it consume you. The daily practice of peace. Like anything else, mastering your emotions takes practice. Here are some simple daily habits to help. Morning prayer. Ask God to guard your heart and mind. Bible journaling. Reflect on verses about patience and wisdom. Pause before reacting. When you feel anger rising, take a deep breath and wait before responding. End of day reflection. Ask yourself, did I let anything steal my peace today? Becoming untouchable. When you live like this, something amazing happens. People lose the power to upset you. You become free. You walk in faith, in strength, in peace. And no one, absolutely no one, can take that away from you. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, remember this. You don't have to participate. Stay rooted, stay strong, and let the peace of God guard your heart forever. This is Spiritual Awakening, and if today's message spoke to you, take it with you, live it, and let your light shine.